Good morning, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. There was a story the other week. This woman by the name of Ruth Gottesman, who actually had attended Palm Beach Synagogue a number of times, she made a donation that broke all records. She gave $1 billion to Albert Einstein Medical School to endow tuition for all future students. And there's a video of this 93-year-old woman making the announcement to all the students in the hall that starting August of this coming year, there'll be no more tuition bills, and the kids break out in excitement. And I think there's another obvious lesson besides the extreme generosity and the humility of Mrs. Gottesman, in which she didn't even want any recognition. She was offered to name the school the Ruth Gottesman Medical School, and she said, "I think you have a good name in Albert Einstein." This week's Torah portion has the story of the contributions to the Mishkan. And it says that the Nesiim, the 12 leaders of the tribes of Israel, brought the gemstones for the breastplate of the high priest. But the word Nesiim is spelled missing one of the yuds, one of the letters. And our rabbis comment and say that when Moses made a call to bring contributions, the leaders of the tribes made a very generous offer. They said, "Moses, you go ahead and collect what you can, and whatever is missing, whatever is lacking, whatever the shortfall is, we'll cover the shortfall." But we all know that it says in this week's Torah portion, the Jews gave more than was necessary. They had to announce, we're no longer accepting donations. We have more than enough, which meant that the Nesiim had nothing to give. And therefore, all they could give was the stones for the breastplate. They could not contribute gold, silver, or other materials for the building of the Mishkan. And our rabbis say that the letter Yud, one of the letters, is taken out because nisatzlu b'mitzvah. They were lax in the mitzvah. They should have come right away and given, even though their intentions were good. We'll fill out whatever's missing. But when there's an opportunity to a mitzvah, you should run and be the first one to do it. And that's why the letter Yud is taken out of their name, to show that they were diminished because of their lack of enthusiasm to go and give up front for the construction of the Mishkan. And the question is twofold. First of all, that's a very good offer. Imagine a fundraiser, a rabbi saying, we need to build a synagogue, and some philanthropist says, do the best you can, I'll cover the shortfall. That would be every rabbi's dream. Why would they punish for doing that? What's so terrible? And second of all, what does taking a letter out of their name have to do with what they did, which is not come and give up front? And I think the lesson here is deeper. The lesson is that the sin of the leaders of the tribe was that they underestimated the generosity of the members of the Jewish people. They assumed that there would be a shortfall and they would cover it. Why didn't they think more positively that the Jews would fill all the needs of the construction of the Mishkan? And therefore the sin may not just be that they weren't giving up front, but that they had a negative perspective of the Jewish people, that they didn't think the Jews would rise to the occasion. If you're going to be a leader, you have to believe in the people you're leading, and you have to believe in their full potential. And if you don't, you're not a great leader. And therefore a letter is taken out of their name to show that they lack the full quality of a leader, which is to believe in those you're leading. Whether you're a leader, whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, you always have to believe in the people. Or even as a fellow human being, believe in other people. And that's what was so great about Mrs. Gottesman. Not only was it an extraordinary gift, but it taught us all a lesson. You know, no one ever gave $1 billion to a university, but I'm sure no one ever asked for $1 billion. I'm sure the president of Albert Einstein didn't go to Mrs. Gottesman and say, can you give $1 billion? He wouldn't dream that anyone would give $1 billion to a university, because no one has ever done that before. But people will exceed your expectations. Believe in people's potential to be generous, and not just monetarily generous. Sometimes we assume, I'm not going to ask this person, he wouldn't do this, she wouldn't do that. Don't sell people short. Don't underestimate the power of people's goodness. There is a famous drummer, his name is Clint Pulver. He's a recording artist, a performer, he has a band. And he tells the story that when he was 10 years old, he was always getting into trouble in school because he couldn't sit still. He was a good student, but he always had to move his hands and tap. He would start, without even knowing it, subconsciously start tapping on the table, and the other kids would look at him to be quiet. The teachers would call him out, but he couldn't stop. And one day he was sent to the principal's office, and the principal said, Clint, Just go back into class and sit on your hands. Don't move your hands. He tried it for 5 minutes. It didn't work. One day he started tapping on the table with his pencil and with his hands. And the teacher said, Clint, stay after class. And he said, uh-oh, now I'm in big trouble. And after class, his teacher, Mr. Jensen, said, Clint, come over here. He sits down at his teacher, Mr. Jensen's desk. And Mr. Jensen said, Clint, have you ever tried playing the drums? And he said, no. And he opened up his drawer. And Mr. Jensen takes a pair of drumsticks that he had purchased. And he hands it to Clint. And he says, Clint, I don't think you're a problem. I think you're a drummer. And with this first pair of drumsticks, Clint started to play the drums. And today he became a world-famous performer, artist. And he says it's all because of that teacher who saw his potential, who saw that he was not a problem, but a drummer. A good teacher, a good leader, sees the good, sees the potential. And by seeing someone's potential, you help them realize it. Shabbat Shalom.